Okay, quick update on the steering mechanism. So this is the prototyped bell crank mechanism. You can see pretty simple, the geometry's changed. Got the bell crank here. It's a 1:2 ratio. I've got an idle crank here, an extra link to provide support for the steering rod here, or the steering bar, and then that connects to two tie rods that go off to the two kind of dummy wheel mechanisms, or wheel and motor cages. So the idea is that you'll have a servo, so servo sitting here. That servo will be driving the bell crank up and down like this, okay, and there'll be a servo horn here that's connected to the bell crank. I haven't worked out the linkage there, but that'll be hopefully fairly straightforward. And then and so you basically translate the up and down motion there to side motion. I'm probably just going to go with this design initially. I might 3D print it. I haven't thought about that. The other alternative is to use aluminium bar and then just fashion something with hand tools, but I don't know if I'll do that. Now the other thing is what I'll end up doing. So this is an example motor that I'll probably be using in the actual rover. It's fairly large, or it's fairly long. It's got an encoder on the back. It's about 70 millimeters long. Now, obviously there'll be a wheel in the picture. So this is a 96 millimeter diameter wheel that I'll probably use. I may go bigger for clearance. I might go up to 100 or 120, possibly 120, we'll see. But I'll start with this. So clearly, I'll have a wheel on the edge here. Now, the entire assembly will have a center of mass that I need to think about, and so I'll end up having something effectively mounting the motor here, and you can see the sweep angle of the motor. Like if I go from, I'll be aiming for sort of 30-degree turn angle, maybe 35, let's say 30. You can see that the motor will overlap, the motor body will overlap with the tie rod there, even at a reasonable angle. Like that's not an extreme steering angle. Over here it's not such a problem, obviously, but when I come back down to here, then that is something. So clearance matters. So probably having the steering mechanism at the bottom, just at the lowest part of the entire design, and then having the motor. So the motor has six bolt or six threaded areas here for bolts, and so the design will basically mate the front of the motor cage here and bolt to the front, support the weight of the motor there. There will be a kingpin above and below. There'll be sort of a fork design that will come around the motor like this, and so the cage will have to present these two stubs here, and I'll get all this machined out of aluminium, I think, and then there'll be a sort of a fork mechanism that comes around and clamps down. Obviously, maybe the motor cage just sits on the bottom of the chassis, or anyway, I haven't worked out how that will work. I'm thinking the fork might just bolt to the top and the bottom of the chassis, and then this would sit into a bearing, and then I'd bolt the top of the fork over the top, and attach that to the chassis. The chassis center line looks like it'll run up and down. I will need, I don't know, haven't worked out exactly what the chassis will look like. I think I can probably just get away with a narrow rectangular chassis with enough surface here to be able to bolt the fork onto, and then that will be the thing that holds the motor cage in and allows enough sweep or range of motion there for the steering. So that's where we're at, and then I'll replicate the same thing in reverse for the back, effectively, so that I can have steering on the back using exactly the same mechanism, and then doing something out of aluminium with all these links, I think. So that's where we're at with the steering mechanism. I'm sort of happy with that, and I'll probably just run with something like this sort of geometry for V1 of the prototype. Probably next is measure up and then off to CAD. So the next update should be something around having this drawn in CAD and at least the geometry there, start building something there.